Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, general ages, it is Tuesday, August 19th, 2025. This is Brandon's World, and you guys already know we're in collaboration with the one, the only Focus Live. My social media links are in the description below. And folks, you already know what August 19th, 2025 means for Brandon's World. I've been teasing it for weeks after months and months of NFL off-season news and speculating and free agency and the draft and trades and training camp. It is now time for us to start unveiling my official 2025 NFL predictions. Now, in the past, we have done this on Labor Day where I give you all my predictions at once. However, over the course of the next 4 episodes of Brandon's World, I'm going to be giving you my predictions for the AFC East, the AFC West, the AFC North, the AFC South, the NFC East, the NFC West, the NFC North, the NFC South, the entire playoffs, the Super Bowl, as well as the NFL awards. I cannot wait to do it this way this year. I think it's going to be a lot more digestible for you to hear my predictions in spurts versus all at once. If you are watching on video over the Brandon's World YouTube channel, you will notice that we are not on Zoom for these recordings. We are going to be on StreamYard. That's because a lot like my early 2025 NFL predictions, I'm going to be putting graphics up on screen so they are more visually appealing for you. So the way we're going to do this is we're not going to be doing, all AFC and then all NFC. I'm going to be going by region. So we'll start today with the AFC East, the NFC East. Then we'll make our way to the West. Then we'll make our way to the North. Then we'll make our way to the South. The reason I'm doing this is so then you guys can get both sides, AFC, NFC, all at once, as opposed to all AFC 1 week, all NFC 1 week. I really feel like that would sort of disrupt the flow. You guys would forget sort of about who I predicted in the AFC East. By the time I got all the way to the NFC South, and we went completely in order, I feel like that way. The subsequent column for these predictions will be up on Friday, August 29th. That is the Friday before September 4th, which obviously when the Dallas Cowboys take on the reigning, defending, undisputed Super Bowl champion, my Philadelphia Eagles, who we will get to today when we preview the NFC East. So let's not waste further time. Let's get into my first official 2025 NFL predictions with the AFC East. And I have the Buffalo Bills winning this division. I have them doing annually at 14-3. They are the only playoff team I have coming out of the AFC East. So last year I down at Buffalo. You guys know I was all in on Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets. Clearly I was wrong. I thought Buffalo was in a bit of a retool year. Obviously they had lost Stephon Diggs. They had lost Gabe Davis. They made a lot of financial decisions on the defense side of the ball. And all they did was dominate the AFC East once again and get the number 2 seed in the AFC. The AFC East division has been the New England Invitational since Tom Brady was there up until 2019, and then it became the Josh Allen Invitational. And I feel like as long as Buffalo has Josh Allen, they're going to be in Super Bowl contention, they're going to be in playoff contention, and they're going to win the AFC East. I think the Hard Knocks curse, Hard Knocks finally put a team that has Super Bowl expectations on Hard Knocks. I think it might, dissipate this year. I'm not worried about that for Buffalo. I have said that I do feel like Buffalo now, their only goal is obviously get past Kansas City and make the Super Bowl for the first time since the 1990s. If they lose to Kansas City in a potential playoff rematch again, could it hamper them? I mean, how much emotion is it going to take out of them? We know they spend their entire off seasons going after the Kansas City Chiefs. I feel like one of these years they have to get it done or they're just going to be an emotional wreck. But they brought in Joey Bosa this year essentially to replace Von Miller, who had little to no production after Buffalo gave him that huge contract. We'll see if that's an upgrade for them in the pass rush department. Obviously, they're expecting big things out of Gregory Rousseau. The James Cook contract situation is a little dicey, but I do believe they're going to eventually get it done because they want James Cook there. And listen, I'm done doubting this team as long as they have Josh Allen, who I think is undisputably the best quarterback in this division. Give me Buffalo 14-3. I have them. Now, in second place, I have the New England Patriots, who I think they won 3 games last year. I think it's very easily double your win total. I think they're going to easily get to 6 wins. I have them at 9-8. I was flirting them with 10 wins and being a playoff team. There's just so many good teams in the AFC, especially in the West and the North. Listen, they can certainly make the playoffs. I think New England is one of the most improved teams this offseason. I think bringing in Mike Vrabel as head coach, Josh McDaniels as offensive coordinator is one of, I wouldn't say the biggest. There's another AFC team I think made bigger head coaching / OC upgrades, but I think New England is certainly up there. Drake May showed flashes last year with nothing around him. And I think the running back they took out of Ohio State, Travion Henderson, in the second round, was a huge pickup for them. I think he was their best pick. They bring Will Campbell in out of LSU as they're going to start solidifying the offensive line. And Mike Vrabel won in Tennessee with Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry with basically a run game, play good, solid defense. And we know Mike Vrabel, right? They bring in Milton Williams over from the Eagles. They bring in Carlton Davis from Tampa. They bring in Robert Spillane from Las Vegas. They have made a lot of additions on both sides of the ball. I think Drake May is going to take a sophomore leap now that he's got a competent coach in Josh McDaniels, who the last time we saw Josh McDaniels coach in New England, he made Mac Jones a Pro Bowl. So, listen, I think, I'm not going to say the sky's the limit, but I think the Patriots are going to be one of the most improved teams in football this year. I think they just barely missed the playoffs at 9-8. In third place, it may shock you order, but I got the Jets at 7-10. Listen, again, I'm going to say what I've been saying about the Jets for the last few years with Aaron Rodgers. I don't think they're as bad as their record says or as people say they are. They have pieces, obviously, on the defense side of the ball. They're led by Quincy Williams, the linebacker. You got Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed, obviously, leading that cornerback position. They do have Garrett Wilson as their number 1 wide receiver who, had a good connection with Aaron Rodgers. They're not great. They bring in Menabu from Missouri to play right tackle along with the left tackle from Penn State they took a year ago. And Aaron Glenn comes from the Detroit Lions. And Aaron Glenn saw, what it took for the Lions, right? They went from 3 wins to 8 wins to the NFC Championship game. And many people thought they would have made the Super Bowl last year out of the NFC. I predicted them early, but I thought there were signs that they were not going to make it even before all the injuries occurred. But I think Aaron Glenn is going to try to build something similar in New York, right? Jared Goff comes from Detroit. People thought he went there to die. Justin Fields comes from Pittsburgh to the Jets. People think Justin Fields is going to the Jets to die. And obviously, they still have Brees Hall. In that field, we know what Detroit did with David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, and running the football. We know how they used Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I predicted they could use Garrett Wilson in a very similar way. I think the Jets are just going to be a competent football team. I think they have real leadership. I think Aaron Glenn is a leader of men. I think there is going to be, some bumpy turbulence in the beginning, but I think by the end of the year, you're going to look up. The Jets are going to be a 6-7 win team with optimism for 2026. Whether or not Justin Fields is the franchise quarterback or not, that is going to still be determined. But I don't think you're going to get terribly bad quarterback play from the Jets. And actually, the team that I think finishes last in this division is the Miami Dolphins at 5-12. I think this is the last year of the Mike McDaniel tour regime. I think the Dolphins need a clean house. The great Colin Cowherd says the Dolphins are the speedboat of the NFL. It felt like when they went up 70-10 on Denver a couple of years ago in Mike McDaniel's first year, that was the peak of the Miami Dolphins under Mike McDaniel. Yes, they made the playoffs twice. They've gotten annihilated in both games. Now, one of those games was without Tua against Buffalo. The other one, they had to go to Kansas City, and obviously in the cold weather, they were not ready to play. And that's the thing about the Dolphins, right? When the weather is good, when everybody's healthy, when it's September, Tua, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, who's still on the team for now, but has been beefing with the team the entire offseason, they can, basically outscore you. But their defense has not been good for years. They traded away Jalen Ramsey for Minka Fitzpatrick, which still doesn't make any sense to me. And when the weather gets cold, they just shut down. And I think teams are starting to finally figure out the Mike McDaniel sort of double motion offense around the league. I don't think it's catching people by surprise anymore. Quite frankly, I don't trust Tua Tagovailoa's health. I said it before. I thought they had a weird draft. I didn't think they upgraded really anywhere, though. I mean, I liked Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. I didn't think he was worth the 13th pick in the draft. I don't like the direction of this Dolphins organization. They've been very noisy this offseason, and I think that is bound for a god-awful year. I think they could be one of the worst teams in the entire AFC this year, and they'll be looking for a new quarterback, new coach, new direction in 2026. Now, let's get to the other East Division. That is in the NFC, and that includes the reigning, defending, undisputed Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, who you could see on the screen again if you're watching on YouTube. That I have my Philadelphia Eagles at 13-4 as the only playoff team coming out of the NFC East. That's right. I do not have the Commanders making it, even though I have the Commanders at 10-7. I have Dallas at a distant 6-11. And I have the New York Giants at a very distant 2-15, a 11-game difference between the first place Philadelphia Eagles. Let me talk about the reigning, defending, undisputed Super Bowl champion. Fly, Eagles, fly, my Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, the schedule was brutal. Yes, they lost offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. Kevin Paluto, who's been the passing game coordinator there for years, is the new OC. Nothing new to Jalen Hurts, who has been constantly disrespected. Even when he won the Super Bowl last year and Super Bowl MVP, people have said that he was carried by a God roster, that Jalen Hurts would not be this good without the talent around him. That's not Jalen Hurts' fault. Jalen Hurts has played well in every playoff game and every big game he's ever played in. And this Philadelphia Eagles offense is so hard to stop. When you have Saquon Barkley, who I don't think he's going to get close to 2,000 yards this year, actually. I think they're really excited about backup running back Will Shipley, who they took in the 2024 NFL draft to sort of release some carries off of Saquon Barkley. The team also signed A.J. Dillon out of the backfield to take some carries off of Saquon Barkley. But when you have A.J. Brown, when you have Devontae Smith, when you have Dallas Goedert, when you have John Dodson, who has shown some real signs at camp now, a year under his belt in the system, that he could have a really good year. And Jordan Malaya, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Tyler Steen, Lane Johnson across that offensive line. It's a really hard offense to stop. And that's what I go back to, is even with this tough schedule that the Eagles have, and I'm not denying it's one of the toughest in the league, I think they've learned a lot from their supernatural funk. I think a lot of that supernatural funk had to do with the defensive side of the ball, with Sean Desai, who was not a good fit at DC, Matt Patricia, who was not a good fit at DC. Obviously, Vic Fangio turned around the defense last year. They went from one of the worst defenses in the league to one of the best. I think Quinyon Mitchell continues to grow as a corner. Jalen Carter may prove out to be one of the top 2-3 defensive linemen in the league this year. I don't think there's a lot stopping this Eagles team. Now, let me get to the Commanders, who I have just barely missing the playoffs at 10-7. And one of my reasons is I don't love this Terry McLaurin contract situation. The Commanders, to me, are weirdly not paying Terry McLaurin. I would easily pay Terry McLaurin, especially because you do have Jaden Daniels on a rookie contract. And in my opinion, Terry McLaurin is vital to this offense. Now, if they don't have him, if they trade him, I still think they're a good team. Obviously, I think quarterback head coach drives this league. I think Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury, and Jaden Daniels, it's only up from here. But the Commanders did not make a lot of upgrades this offseason outside of getting Deebo Samuel, which we don't know what he has left. He's taken a lot of legs on his body in San Francisco. I do love the addition of Laramie Tunsil at left tackle. I think that will help their offensive line. But defensively, it's a lot of young guys. It's not a lot of veterans outside of Bobby Wagner. And they did win, 6 one-possession games last year that almost felt like that they were at the buzzer. It does feel like there's going to be some regression from this Commanders team. So I think a lot like the Texans a year ago, where C.J. Stroud would have been of a sophomore slump. I'm not going to say sophomore slump for Jaden Daniels. I just don't think it's going to be as easy as it was his rookie year. Now, I've said it all offseason. I think the Dallas Cowboys are a 6-win team headed for disaster. We know about the Micah Parsons situation, but the win or loss record to me doesn't matter about Micah Parsons, whether he gets paid or not. I just think this Cowboys team is a bad team. Listen, they were 3-4 last year before Dak Prescott's injury. Yes, they added George Pickens, who will free up CeeDee Lamb, but they did not bring back Rico Dowdle out of the backfield. Their 2 running backs are Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams, 2 broken down backs who were in the prime of their career 5 years ago. And Brian Schottenheimer has been in the NFL forever. He's never been a head coach. And he was the Cowboys OC who never called plays the last 3 years. And so the Dallas Cowboys, to me, feel more like a country club now than a serious NFL team. Matt Eberflus comes over from Chicago to be their new DC. Now, do I think he's a better defensive coordinator than head coach? I do. I think Dallas's defense, they got some talent there. I obviously mentioned Micah. Now, DeMarcus Lawrence is no longer there. But you do got Bland, you got Trayvon Diggs, you've got Overshown. So there's pieces there. I think Eberflus will do a good job coaching the defense. But I'm not excited about this Cowboy offense as well. Their offensive line is not as good as it was back in the heyday when they had, Zach Martin and Travis Frederick and, Tyron Smith. All those guys are gone for Dallas now. So I just don't think that they're a good football team. And, I think 2016, 2018, 2019, they kind of missed their window. They did win those 3 straight years, 12-5, 12-5, 12-5 with Mike McCarthy. It never went anywhere. They still have not made the NFC Championship game in 30 years, and I don't see any way in hell they do so this year. I think there's a lot of teams better in the NFC than the Cowboys. So the Giants are a weird team in my opinion, because I could totally see this team winning 7 games. Brian Dable, Joe Shane, they're fighting for their job. And they bring in the veteran Russell Wilson. Now, they did draft Jackson Dart in the first round, who I don't think Jackson Dart's an NFL quarterback. I'm going to say that here. We'll probably see Jackson Dart by, middle of the year. Here's the thing about the Giants. They have easily the toughest schedule in the league. And while they have a great defensive line, Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Dexter Lawrence, outside of Malik Neighbors, who the hell is Russell Wilson going to throw this ball to? And listen, is that defensive line, which is a lot of young guys, obviously Thibodeau now coming in his 3rd year, Abdul Carter, who's a rookie. There's a lot of comparisons to Micah Parsons for Abdul Carter. Will he actually be Micah Parsons? And this defensive line is going to have to be the best defensive line in the league. And Russell Wilson's going to have to prove that what he did in Pittsburgh last year was not a fluke, and that he was back to being the quarterback that he was in Denver in his first year there with Sean Payton, his second year in Denver overall. And I just don't see it. I think this is going to blow up in the Giants' face. They do have Jameis Winston on the roster. I don't see him playing, though, over Jackson Dart personally. I think the Giants are a dead team walking. Now, again, could their defensive line win them 7-8 games and they finish third and the Cowboys finish last? Sure, it's possible. But they are nowhere near Philadelphia or Washington in this division. So take your pick, really. If you think the Giants will be better than I do, I can see it between the Giants and Cowboys for third and fourth place. But this division is coming down to Philly and Washington. So, out of all of that, what I gave you today, this is a look at the current standings of where I have in the playoff predictions. In the AFC, I have the Bills winning the division. In the NFC, I have the Eagles winning the division. On Thursday, we're going to be going over the AFC West and the NFC West. As you can imagine, a lot more playoff teams will be added. Of course, there are 7 playoff teams from each side, so we need 3 more division winners, 3 more wild cards from each side. We have 2 playoff teams in. We have 12 more playoff teams to decide. Who will those be? You'll find out over the course of the coming weeks. Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.